Alright guys, after that traumatizing last video, I'm just going to go ahead and do this one normal. I mean, you guys want me to answer the question, so I think trying to do funny voices and stuff probably is not the point. So I'm just going to go ahead and get to the, next third of the questions now. And, let's do it. What abilities, armor, and weapons would you have in a game? Good question. I would love to be affiliated with fire in some way. Just because most of my favorite game characters are fire-based, and I don't know, I like fire as a weapon. It burns things. Um, as far as weapons go, and armor, honestly, with weapons, I'm really fond of bows. I also like swords, though. I mean, swords are basic, but I mean, they're overused for a reason. They're just pretty awesome weapons in general. I'm not much of a bruiser. I think I probably would be an archer, honestly, just because I'm not the most physical of people. With fire. That's actually very, very rash. It'd probably be more fitting for me to have, like, wind or something. But I like fire. I'm not a pyromaniac, though. I have a lot of friends who are, but I'm not a pyromaniac. For armor, I like lightweight stuff that's still pretty effective. It's like hardened leather, studded leather armor, I guess, would be good. Maybe a light chain mail. Light chain mail. Well, if it's made of mithril. I would be covered in mithril. I would have a plus 20 sword of obliteration. What do you think about playable Laguz in Smash? I'm not too into having a Laguz as a playable character, mostly because they're useless in their non-animal forms, but in their animal forms, they are an animal, and it's hard to make them feasible. For example, the birds, I mean, they don't have, like, arms. For those of you who don't know, Laguz are a race in the recent Fire Emblem games that can transform into animals. They can transform into either beasts, like cats, tigers, into dragons, or into birds, of which there's ravens and crows and swans and just generally stuff like that. I don't think there's a good way to do them in Smash, and I don't think they're really important enough to warrant trying that. I guess you could debate having one of the enemy, like, villainous Laguz, but nah, I mean, we've already got Ike from the recent games, and I think we should spread it around a bit more. If I had to use one, honestly, I would personally just want to use Mordecai, but that's just my personal preference. Do you prefer the cartoony style Zelda or the realistic Zelda? I think they both really have their merits, but if I had to choose, I probably would actually go for the cartoony style, if only because that's where I feel like Zelda really makes its mark as a unique series. That's where it's really able to create things that you wouldn't see anywhere else. I love the art style that they've used for basically every game. I've never looked at a game and thought it looked ugly. I really like what they're doing with Skyward Sword, in that they're combining the two of them into, like, this impressionist sort of paintery art style that allows them to make really, really interesting characters and enemies that wouldn't work in a realistic world, but still maintaining that level of, believable anatomy and everything that they didn't really have in Wind Waker. But I have to say, I lean more towards the cartoony side, if only because it allows them to play a lot more. What about adding Nightmare from Soul Calibur to represent Namco? I wouldn't do it, mostly because Soul Calibur has very, very little to do with Nintendo systems, uh, and because he's from a fighting game that's got a very, very different style, and I don't think he transitioned very well. Nor do I think Namco is one of the companies that needs to be represented in the first place. At least not right now. Maybe, further down the road. I mean, would he be a fun character? Yes. Would he fit with the style of Smash? Debatable. I personally am not interested in seeing him yet. Maybe once we've represented a couple other companies and it's Namco's turn, if for some reason Pac-Man, like, becomes one of the most unpopular characters on Earth. What are the chances of Sora in an SSB4 game now that he has a 3DS game? I really don't think Sora is going to be in Smash. I mean, the main thing is, even though he has a game coming out for the 3DS, he is mainly a Sony character. Like, he's got spin-offs that spread all over the place. You know, he's got stuff on the PSP, he's got stuff on cell phones, he's got stuff on the Game Boy. But when you ask, like, where's the main storyline, it is a Sony thing. I mean, there are reasons it would work. He is one of the more popular Square Enix characters. Um, I get he is one of the options. I'm not saying he has no chance. I'm not interested in seeing him in Smash. I know other people are. I wouldn't count on it, but then again, Square Enix is hard to pin down, so. What if you could transfer exclusive handheld characters to the console? Well, the thing is, if you could transfer them to the console, I don't think it would be an exclusive anymore. Um, I don't know. I really don't see this working except for with the customizable characters. I mean, when you get into the business of exclusives, the whole thing just gets messy. You know, there's like so many contingencies to think of. There's so many different things that could go wrong or that could happen and all this that it really just seems much, much simpler not to have exclusive characters on the handheld. My main concern too is if it's something that you can only transfer once you've got both versions, then people who don't have the handheld version will be at a severe disadvantage when they play online. There will be people on there who will have these exclusive characters that they can't have. And I mean, asking somebody to go out and get a whole new system if they don't already have a 3DS so that they can have more characters to play on the console, it's just messy. It's really, really messy. How many characters and stages do you think will be on the 3DS game? The way I see it, they're going to do one of two things with this. Either they're going to have a very, very basic roster, a la maybe even the original size, maybe with a few different characters than the original. Or they'll have something a little bit bigger than Brawls, but not by much. Either they're going to move the roster ahead, or they're going to scale it down to a basic and put the emphasis mostly on just customizing your character and doing your customizable character story. As for stages, it also goes either way. Either there'll be a pared back number of stages with maybe a really advanced stage creator, or you'll have a step up from Brawl, but not as much. I don't think they'll leave it the same way it was in Brawl. What is your favorite acting skit that you've done? Favorite acting skit? Well, on Harmpit, my sketch comedy group, link here. On Harmpit, I would say it'd be either Liberty Chips or Manny the Masochist. Liberty Chips because it was the biggest challenge I had, directing, writing, and then acting in it too, although the acting was the easiest part, because it was just hitting marks. It was a music video, so it was all pretty easy. Managing a lot of people, it was a really, really stressful, hard project, but then in editing, I feel like it really came together and it paid off. Having scripted it out beforehand and having made a shot list of what I wanted to happen every second. We had a lot of problems with it, but it was a lot of fun. Manny the Masochist was just fun because it was a collaboration between just me and Tyler, and we had a lot of fun with it. I also participated in a skit one of my improv friends did. I had a very, very minor part. It's right here. Tell me if you see me in it somewhere. I'm hidden. Though I have to say, doing Lock It or Lose It with Pizza Dude Man Guy like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, was really fun. With Skyward Sword coming out, what does the future have in store for Zelda? Something exciting, I'm sure. Skyward Sword is changing the formula of Zelda by far. The system, they're not doing their standard dungeon system that they have been doing, like the whole thing is supposed to be a trial now. So, who really knows? I feel like the series is going to keep growing. It's still got steam. They've still got so much of the story that they need to say. There's so many gaps to fill in, so many questions that are left unanswered about Vaati, maybe going back to Termina, filling in that stuff. What about the other worlds? You got Holodrum and Labrynna that they still barely fleshed out. Where are they in relation to Hyrule? What happens if they interact? There's so many things they can play on still, and I think Skyward Sword is an indication that they're ready to start branching out and really do crazy things with the Zelda franchise. And I couldn't be more excited. What are your thoughts on the various Super Smash Bros. Fan games? I've played some. They're fun. I don't particularly know if there are any that are better than others. I haven't spent a lot of time playing them. Yeah, I wish I could say more, but remember there was one I played a couple years back. I think it might have actually been before Brawl came out, but they had like a Goomba playable and stuff. It was fun. I played that for a bit, but no, I don't get as into computer gaming, mostly because my computer's terrible. But also just because I have other things to spend time on. But no, they've been pretty fun from what I've seen. Some people can do some really good work. What do you think about having a new smash or special move in SSB4? I definitely expect to see one. I mean, we all know Pizza Dude Mengai's, Super Smash idea. I think it sounds really good, and I'd love those. But I mean, the chances of Nintendo coming up with the exact same idea, pretty minuscule. I mean, it is a possibility. But I think there's also a possibility that they may throw in a back special. It'd be on. That one also is a little bit unlikely though, just because it'd be a little bit awkward. Since normally that would make you change directions. It's not like a arcade fighting game where you're facing one direction the whole time. Um, Touch smashes. One thing I do like is the idea of special throws. I would actually like to see that. That'd be a pretty cool addition. I think there definitely should be a new special or a new Smash. I just don't know exactly what yet. I mean, Nintendo will surprise us. There's a lot of possibilities, a lot of good ones, and who knows what Sakurai's thinking. Will Mario and Sonic at the Olympics be represented in SSB4? Honestly, I think this is the only way that we will see any new Sonic representation. Um, we're not going to see any new Sonic characters because the reason that Sonic is in the game is because he is Mario's rival. Now, I think that it does mean that there could potentially be a Olympics stage to show that rivalry between them, and possibly music. But I think that's as far as it's going to go. So yeah, I think it's likely that we'll see some music and possibly a stage from the Mario and Sonic at the Olympics series. If you're asking my opinion of the series itself, I think it's a terrible, terrible game series. I honestly don't see any value in it. But yeah, no, I definitely think it's possible for them to show representation of it through stages or music. Should the 3DS Smash game use sprites instead of character models? I highly doubt it. It would upset a lot of fans because Super Smash Bros. Has always been a 3D game, and making the sprites would mess with the graphics, not just the aesthetic, but it would mess with the way that it works too, the way that the characters flow, the way that the game moves. I don't think we're going to see sprites. That would be upsetting to a lot of fans. Will Super Smash Bros. 4 bring back stages from all three games or just from Brawl? I sure hope so, because there were some stages from the original game that I would really like to see come back. I liked the old Hyrule Castle, for example. And they have kept the Great Fox, meaning like the Corneria stage, throughout the series as a whole, so it's not like they feel like they have to constantly scrap things and renew them. It'd be kind of nice to see the original Peach's Castle come back, too. No, I think since Nintendo wants so many stages in the next Smash game, I think it's very likely that they'll pull from all three games instead of just Brawl. I don't see any reason why they wouldn't, especially because people have been making their own renditions of original stages and putting them in the game. So I think Sakurai would want to do a little bit of a throwback. Should Pit be revamped to include new weapons from Uprising? Whenever you revamp a character's entire moveset, you take a risk of upsetting a lot of fans. I think Pit's moveset might be slightly adjusted. I don't think they'll completely revamp it to include all the new weapons from Uprising. Maybe work these weapons in as items in the game, or work them through something else. Maybe use them with the new special or smash that comes into the game. Or make just a few small changes. But I don't think we'll see a very big revamp of Pit's moveset, just because Nintendo doesn't tend to do that. For a good reason. It's risky, like I said before. And while we've seen slight changes, we have yet to see a very huge change to a character. And I think that's because the first time around, they usually end up making a character that's very, very representative of their game, and that's pretty good to play as. So yeah, I think we'll see some changes, just to keep him up to date with his new games, just like they changed Link's Boomerang, unfortunately. But, no, not a total revamp. They won't change the essence of Pit. If you were in a game like Smash, what would your moveset be? I would probably just flail, like a Magikarp. Who is your favorite Fire Emblem lord? It's a toss-up between Hector and Ephraim. I would give the edge to Hector just because he's a lot funnier than Ephraim is. Um, that's it, honestly. I'm not as into Ike, really. I love a lot of the other characters from the game, but Ike isn't one of my favorite lords. What do you think the best 5 Zelda games have been? Link to the Past, Majora's Mask, Wind Waker, Ocarina of Time, and The Oracles. Yeah. It gets a little bit messy for the 5th one, but those are definitely my top 4, at least. The Oracles, it's been a while since I played them, but I remember liking them a lot. The puzzles were great. Do you think Nintendo will remake a Mother game for the 3DS? There are ups and downs to it. On the upside, it'd be great to get the Mother series more exposure. On the downside, there's not much you can do with the 3D regarding Mother because they stuck with sprites, and I don't think that aesthetic is ever going to change. Putting it in 3D, I feel, would ruin some of the charm of the series. Another thing is, Itoi, he's not French, Itoi, the guy who heads the Mother games, isn't interested in making them anymore. If somebody else steps up, I can see the series continuing, and honestly, it probably will be with remakes more than with new games, simply because Itoi is not going to be on the project. So it's more likely that they'll remake one than make a new one at this point, but at the same time, there's all those legal issues. They really just need somebody to step up, or nothing's going to happen with Mother. It all rides on whether somebody else claims leadership in the Mother project. What do you think about having Resetti playable in SSB4? I don't want a playable Animal Crossing character, but if it's going to be anybody, I think it'd be more fun for it to be Resetti than anyone else. It'd definitely be more humorous than any other choices you could make, I think. Although Tom Nook would be pretty funny. Resetti running around with a pickaxe, it'd make the most sense too, honestly. If you have to have an Animal Crossing rep, I'd go with Resetti. But I'm not a huge fan. It is windy outside, man! What are your thoughts on the new 3DS games? As I am not the proud, incredibly lucky owner of a 3DS, there's not too much I can say about the games, but I've played quite a few demos. When I went and did the Skyward Sword demo, I also played a lot of the 3DS stuff just to see what it was like. And I really liked a lot of the remakes that were there. I played Ocarina of Time, I played Star Fox, I played the new Kirby game, Mass Attack, although I don't think that was specifically 3DS. It's fun. It's still solid. There were some times, what was it? It was Street Fighter. They had like Street Fighter for the 3DS, and the 3D did not work for me. It threw me off. It was really hard to see, and it was really distracting and awkward. Ocarina of Time, it was pretty good. I honestly don't think the 3D adds that much to the games, honestly. And I haven't gone through enough of the library, really, to generally know how the console's doing, in my opinion. And it's just started, too. I mean, most of what I know is remakes of things. So, yeah. What I'm really excited for is Metal Gear Solid 3 is being remade for the 3DS. Oh. What do you think about the Wii U? I really don't know enough. Nintendo's saying that this is going to bring them up to date with the graphics, but I'm really wondering, do they mean with the current gen consoles, with the 360 and the PS3? Because if so, I think Sony and Microsoft are going to raise the bar more with their next generation, so Nintendo will still be further behind. Or are they going to try and push past what the 360 and the PS3 can do? If they can do that, it'll open up their market more, and it'll bring them back probably third-party support, which is important. I'm not incredibly looking forward to the new controller setup, but that's just because I don't know too much about it yet. I like having the screen there. I think it'll be useful to have a controller with a screen in it. I kind of wish that it wasn't just one per console, but then again, I guess that saves us money on having to buy a bunch of those, because I'm sure they're expensive. Using the normal Wiimotes along with it will be kind of nice, because you can just carry over your controllers. If Nintendo really commits to making this a powerful next-generation competitor console, gives it better online, gives it a lot of processing power, it can be an amazing system. However, if they half-ass it, they're going to fall further behind in the third-party market than they already are, which is going to hurt them business-wise. They'll still make good games. Nintendo always makes good games for their own systems. They always take their systems seriously. It's just whether they're going to win back that third-party support. I don't know enough yet. Nintendo usually commits to what they're doing, so I hope they come out with like a incredibly cutting-edge system. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's the second part. I've got like 21 questions left, so I'll address those next week on Tuesday, and maybe before then, depending on how my schedule works out. And this video ran longer than I expected. I'm sorry, but I got some really in-depth questions, and I didn't really want to cut them down. So, yeah, thanks for sending these in, guys. These are fairly good questions. I hope I've been entertaining. Yeah. By the way, I'm going to get the Dazzle soon. I get paid tomorrow. Excellent.